Despite being a well-established competitive game for 10 years and counting, with hundreds of thousands of players sinking tons of hours into training in order to rank up, Rocket League players have never had a way to train the most important skill in the game, beating actual opponents. Built into the game itself, modes like free play and training packs give players a way to practice moving around the field and getting repetitions with the ball. Community mods like Bacchus Mod and custom workshop maps give competitive players extra tools to improve their mechanics and car control. So then why do so many players still get stuck in Platinum or Diamond when they can hit triple reset musty flips all day in free play or fly through a rings map first try, while a player like myself stays comfortably in Grand Champ despite having mechanics like this? Because to win in Rocket League, you need to outplay real opponents and stop them from outplaying you. So how can you practice that? Enter RLDojo, a training tool I built that allows you to train realistic scenarios against advanced, community-developed Rocket League bots. In this video, I'm going to be demonstrating some of the dojo's best features and how you can customize it to maximize your training. First, we're going to walk through how to start up RLDojo. If you haven't already installed it, check the description of this video for how to install it. I'll have another video on that. We're going to start in the RLBot menu. If you don't know what RLBot is, it's a program that lets you play against community-trained bots, and RLDojo couldn't exist without it, so a ton of thanks to that community. Starting in the RLBot menu, let's make sure we have Dojo enabled in the script section. Make sure we have one of these bots on the orange team. I'm going to be using Nexto for this video, but Necto might be better to start with because Nexto is really good at some of these things. Double check your mutator settings to make sure match length is set to unlimited and respawn time is set to disable goal reset. Then check the extra settings to make sure you have all of these matching as well. Once everything looks good there, let's click this Launch Rocket League and Start Match button and jump into the game. Once we load into the game, the first thing you're going to see is this message at the top left saying "Welcome to the dojo, press M to enter the menu," and you'll notice that you've been kind of dropped into a scenario against a bot, with a little countdown once you leave the menu. This is basically a first taste of what dojo is, which is a way to repeatedly train specific scenarios against bots. The scenario you see first here, for example, and you can see the details on the top left of your screen, is a basic setup where the offensive player has possession, the defender is shadowing nearby, and the human player is on offense. This default combination of offensive and defensive scenarios is one of dozens of possible combinations that we can talk a little more about, the preset scenarios. To try out other preset scenarios, start in the main menu and scroll down to Load Preset Scenario. It's going to give you a list of offensive positions, defensive positions, and a choice of whether you want to play offense or defense. In this first example, I'm going to pick defense, with a backboard pass as the offensive setup and corner as the defensive starting point. With a little bit of random variance added, it's going to give me a setup like that every time. Situations like this one are a good example of why I wanted to make this tool in the first place, because there's really no training tool that exists that can force you to react on defense like this situation does. Defense is also such an underpracticed skill set while being probably the most viable way to control a game and rank up if practiced correctly. Next, I'll set up an offensive example where there's a pass coming in overhead and I have to redirect it past the defender. In free play or a training pack, it wouldn't matter how fast I got to the ball or how good the shot is, meaning I would probably practice it for 5 hours and immediately get dunked in a real game. But in the dojo, you can't get away with sucking. My attempts get better, but Nexto is going to easily shut down all of these, so I'm going to switch to a different passing setup to feel better about myself. Finally, I've shown Nexto who's boss. I'm ready to score on SSLs, and I can move on to training something else. Let's say maybe I've been getting scored on as last man in net recently, and I'm sick of being roasted by 12-year-olds. Again, this is something you can't really train with existing tools. One of the coolest features of the dojo, if I may toot my own horn, is a full scenario editor allowing for custom scenario creation. It kind of works like the in-game training pack editor, but it lets you change your rotation, starting velocity, and obviously another car to play against. In this editor, press Tab to cycle through the parameters, use the arrow keys to modify the object, and press Enter to advance from the offensive car to the ball to the defensive car. Press 1 at any time to quote-unquote try the scenario to get a sense of how it'll actually play out before committing to saving it. I'll speed through it, but in this example, I'm setting up some sort of wall outplay situation where I have to take possession before the defender gets there, ideally with a scoring shot. You'll see that I quickly realize that a simple shot on net isn't going to do it, and I need to try some more advanced outplays to get a goal on Nexto. Next, let's go over playlists. You might have noticed that individually selecting certain scenarios every time you want to train is a little bit tedious. Playlists are a way to choose multiple combinations of scenarios to fit an overall theme, which makes training specific concepts a little bit more convenient. In this first example, I'll choose the Shadow Defense preset playlist. This is going to give me a variety of situations where I have to defend this bot that is notoriously good at flicking the ball. Don't worry, I edited out the attempts where he made me look stupid. Another example is this pre-made mechanical offense playlist. As you can see, I don't really understand what mechanics are, and I refuse to practice things I'm not already good at, so this playlist is my best guess at good mechanical setups to practice beating a defender. Don't like my preset playlists? You'll be relieved to learn about custom playlists. Start creating a custom playlist by entering the Create Custom Playlist option in the main menu. In this example, I'm going to create a playlist to practice the most important skill in the game, the 50-50. I'll choose a variety of offensive setups against this front intercept style defensive option and add each scenario individually. On the right, you can see all info about the playlist in progress. You'll also want to choose a boost range, a timeout in seconds, and Rule 0 option, which determines if the scenario doesn't end until the ball touches the ground, like the last second of the game. Last but definitely not least is the mode that's probably actually the most fun part of this entire tool, with almost zero relevance to its original goal: Race Mode. Race Mode is a timed movement minigame where the ball spawns in seemingly random spots on the field, and you try to touch 100 balls as fast as you can. While randomly generated, it is seeded such that the ball locations will be the same every time you play it. I love this mode because it makes you practice realistic movement mechanics rather than something like a Rings Workshop map, which trains specific movements that might not be all that important for winning games at most ranks. I find it particularly useful for controlling your car off of the wall, recovering smoothly in awkward situations, planning efficient routes to get enough boost while not going too far out of the way of the next ball, and really forcing yourself out of your comfort zone overall, which is extremely important for improvement. It also keeps track of your best attempt, so that you always have a record to try and beat. And that pretty much sums it up. I've been working on this tool for a pretty long time. It's grown into much more than I originally thought it would, and I'm really excited to share it with you guys. Shout out to the folks in the RLBot Discord for answering a few questions for me over the last few months, to the developer Dan, whose 50-50 minigame made me realize this was possible, and to my buddy Mike for alpha testing this thing since day one. Lastly, if you have any feature requests or bug reports, feel free to leave them in the RLDojo GitHub page, reply to this YouTube video, wherever it is, I'll probably find it. If you want to give back, feel free to follow me on Twitch or here on YouTube. Enjoy!